School achievement data in this episode comes from California's public CAASPP Smarter Balanced Results, California Department of Education Data Quest and District Profile Materials, and district-level academic program pages. CDE says DataQuest includes reports on test results, enrollment, English learners, graduation and dropout, school staffing, course enrollment, and other school data. CDE's CAASPP research file page says the files contain the same information presented in the detailed test results section and suppress groups with fewer than 11 tested students. For program claims, we also checked official district pages, the International Baccalaureate Organization, the College Board, LAUSD Choices, Long Beach Unified, Glendale Unified, Capistrano Unified, Corona-Norco Unified, Tustin Unified, Garden Grove Unified, and Irvine Unified. Today we are looking at Southern California, but we are going to make this manageable. We could easily spend an entire episode just on Los Angeles Unified, or Irvine, or Long Beach, or the Inland Empire. There are too many districts, too many schools, and too many local reputations to treat the whole region fairly in one pass. So for this episode, we made an editorial decision. We are going to focus on the most powerful comparison set, the districts that best show how reputation, real estate, and academic data can point families in different directions. That means we are not going to cover every district in Los Angeles County, Orange County, Riverside County, or San Bernardino County. We are going to use a tighter group: La Cañada, San Marino, Palos Verdes, Irvine, Los Alamitos, Garden Grove, Tustin, Capistrano, Glendale, Long Beach, LAUSD, Chino Valley, and Corona-Norco. If you want a full episode on a particular county, city, district, or school, leave a comment with the place you want us to cover. That is probably the best way to build this series because Southern California is not one school market. It is many school markets sitting on top of each other. The reason this region is so important is simple. In Southern California, school reputation affects real estate. It affects where families move, how much they stretch, which neighborhoods they ignore, and which districts they assume are out of reach or not worth considering. Before most families ever look at the state data, they already have a map in their head. In Los Angeles County, the familiar high reputation names are places like San Marino, La Cañada, Palos Verdes, Manhattan Beach, South Pasadena, Arcadia, and some of the West Side and South Bay districts. These are the names that show up well on school rating pages and real estate search tools. They tend to have strong test scores, strong college-going reputations, and very expensive housing markets. In Orange County, the mental map usually points families toward Irvine first, and then places like Los Alamitos, Laguna Beach, Newport Mesa in certain zones, Capistrano and South Orange County, Tustin, and some of the Huntington Beach or Yorba Linda area districts. Irvine, in particular, has become almost a national shorthand for a high-performing, large suburban district. Then there is the Inland Empire. The school reputation map there is different. Families looking for affordability often start comparing districts like Chino Valley, Corona-Norco, Temecula Valley, Murrieta Valley, Etiwanda, Redlands, and Rancho Cucamonga area schools. The question is usually not whether these districts have the same reputation as Irvine or La Cañada. The question is whether families can get a strong enough academic environment while getting more house, newer housing, or a more realistic monthly payment. That is the perception. And some of it is accurate. The famous districts are often famous for a reason. But reputation has one major weakness. It usually talks in averages. A district gets treated as high performing because the average is high. Another district gets treated as mixed because the average is lower. But families do not experience a district average. They experience a particular school, a particular program, a particular peer group, and a particular academic track. That is why the subgroup data matters, especially the data for students who are not economically disadvantaged. That does not tell every family's story, and it should never be used to erase the outcomes of lower income students. But for families making real estate decisions, it can be extremely relevant. If a mixed income district has a lower overall average, but it's not economically disadvantaged, students perform close to the students in a more expensive district, that should change the conversation. It does not automatically mean the less expensive district is better. It does not mean the school experience is identical. It does not mean every school in the district is strong, but it does mean the headline score may be hiding something important. So let's start with the achievement data. California statewide 2025 CAASPP results give us the baseline. Across the state, 48.82% of students met or exceeded the English language arts standard, and 37.30% met or exceeded the math standard. That is the statewide comparison point. Now look at the prestige benchmarks. La Cañada Unified is one of the strongest academic districts in Los Angeles County. In 2025, 89.08% of students met or exceeded the English standard, and 84.01% met or exceeded the math standard. Among students who were not economically disadvantaged, the rates were about 90% in English and 85% in math. That is elite performance. San Marino Unified is also exactly as strong as its reputation suggests. In 2025, 85.71% of students met or exceeded the English standard, and 84.74% met or exceeded the math standard. For students who were not economically disadvantaged, the rates were about 86% in English and 86% in math. Palos Verdes Peninsula Unified is another strong benchmark. Its overall 2025 results were 80.84% in English and 75.41% in math. That is well above the state and firmly in the high-performing category. So the first point is important. The famous districts are not fake. The data supports them as strong academic systems. But now let's move into Orange County, because this is where the parent-facing story gets especially interesting. Irvine Unified is the obvious benchmark. It is large, well-known, academically strong, and a major driver of real estate demand. In 2025, Irvine Unified had 74.53% of students meeting or exceeding the English standard and 70.50% meeting or exceeding the math standard. Among students who were not economically disadvantaged, Irvine was about 79% in English and 76% in math. Those are very strong numbers, especially for a large district. But the comparison to Garden Grove is where the data gets more interesting. Garden Grove Unified does not usually have the same prestige brand as Irvine. It is more economically and demographically mixed. And if you look only at the overall score, you see a meaningful gap. In 2025, Garden Grove was 60.21% in English and 50.70% in math overall. That is clearly below Irvine overall. But among students who were not economically disadvantaged, Garden Grove was about 78.51% in English and 70.99% in math. Irvine's not economically disadvantaged students were about 79.04% in English and 76.09% in math. So in English, the gap is tiny. In math, Irvine still leads, but Garden Grove is much closer than the overall district averages would suggest. That is the kind of fact families usually do not see. If a family only uses a rating widget, they may treat Irvine and Garden Grove as completely different academic worlds. The overall averages support Irvine as stronger, but for students who are not economically disadvantaged, Garden Grove looks much more competitive, especially in English. That does not mean Garden Grove is Irvine. It does not mean the schools are interchangeable, but it does mean a family should not rely only on the district-wide average. Tustin tells a similar story, but with even stronger subgroup numbers. Tustin Unified's overall 2025 results were 62.22% in English and 53.38% in math. Again, below Irvine overall, but among students who were not economically disadvantaged, Tustin was about 80.74% in English and 75.13% in math. That is basically in Irvine's neighborhood for this subgroup. Capistrano Unified also belongs in this conversation. It is not a hidden district in the same way Garden Grove might be, but it is a large South Orange County district with strong results. Overall, Capistrano was 71.99% in English and 62.67% in math. Among students who were not economically disadvantaged, it was about 81.54% in English and 73.66% in math. Los Alamitos is also strong. Overall, it was 75.91% in English and 64.43% in math. Among students who were not economically disadvantaged, it was about 78.84% in English and 68.23% in math. So the Orange County picture is not simply Irvine is good and the rest are not. Irvine is strong, but Garden Grove, Tustin, Capistrano, and Los Alamitos each complicate the story in different ways. Garden Grove is the surprise. Tustin is a very strong, comparable student story. Capistrano is a strong, large district South County benchmark. Los Alamitos has a strong reputation and strong overall results. but its not economically disadvantaged math number is not unreachable compared with some less famous districts. Now move back to Los Angeles County. La Cañada, San Marino, and Palos Verdes are still the elite benchmarks. Their overall numbers are very high, but when you look at larger and more mixed districts, the district averages become less useful. Glendale Unified had overall 2025 results of 60.12% in English and 52.27% in math. Those numbers do not put Glendale in the same category as La Cañada or San Marino overall, but among students who were not economically disadvantaged, Glendale was about 70.88% in English and 61.95% in math. That is not elite benchmark performance, but it is much stronger than the overall average suggests. Long Beach Unified is even more important because it is large. Overall, Long Beach was 51.72% in English and 38.50% in math. Those numbers are only modestly above the statewide English average and close to the statewide math average. But among students who were not economically disadvantaged, Long Beach was about 68.67% in English and 54.80% in math. That is a big difference. A family looking at Long Beach district-wide might assume the system is academically average, but the data for not economically disadvantaged students is much stronger than the overall number. The correct conclusion is not that every Long Beach school is strong. The correct conclusion is that Long Beach is too large and varied to judge from the district average. LAUSD is the most extreme version of that point. Los Angeles Unified had overall 2025 results of 46.45% in English and 36.76% in math. Those are not high district-wide numbers, but among students who were not economically disadvantaged, LAUSD was about 71.27% in English and 61.57% in math. That is a huge spread, and it makes sense because LAUSD is not one school experience. It is a giant system with neighborhood schools, magnets, selective programs, dual language programs, gifted programs, high-performing schools, struggling schools, and everything in between. A district-wide average is a very blunt instrument in a district that large. Now look at the Inland Empire. This is where the real estate question becomes very practical. A family may look at Orange County prices and decide they need to move east. The question becomes, how much academic quality are they giving up, and does that depend on the district? Chino Valley Unified is one of the strongest early candidates in this comparison. Its overall 2025 results were 62.12% in English and 49.79% in math. Among students who were not economically disadvantaged, Chino Valley was about 76.68% in English and 65.27% in math. That is not La Cañada or San Marino, but it is much stronger than many people might expect from an Inland Empire district, especially in English. Corona-Norco Unified is another serious candidate. Overall, Corona-Norco was 57.96% in English and 43.00% in math. Among students who were not economically disadvantaged, it was about 75.54% in English and 62.15% in math. Again, this is not Irvine math performance, but it is strong enough that families should not dismiss the district simply because it is outside the coastal or central Orange County reputation map. That is the data picture. The famous districts are strong. La Cañada, San Marino, Palos Verdes, Irvine, and Los Alamitos all earn serious respect in the official numbers. But when we isolate students who are not economically disadvantaged, some of the lower profile or more mixed districts become much more competitive than their overall averages suggest. Garden Grove is the clearest example. Tustin and Capistrano are strong. Chino Valley and Corona-Norco are real Inland Empire alternatives. Glendale, Long Beach, and LAUSD need to be read at the school and program level, not the district average level. That is the key idea. The district average tells you how the whole system performs. The subgroup data tells you whether the district may be stronger for a particular student profile than the headline number suggests. Now let's add the academic program layer because this is where a lot of families get confused. Schools and districts love to advertise programs IB, AP, Capstone, dual enrollment, early college, STEM academies, CTE pathways, magnet schools, language immersion, college promise programs. These can be meaningful, but they are not all the same kind of signal. Some programs are externally authorized or externally tested. Some are common across many districts. Some are mostly branding unless you can see participation and outcomes, and some are very meaningful for a particular child, but irrelevant for another child. Take IB, for example. IB stands for International Baccalaureate. It is not just a slogan a school can put on a brochure. To become an IB World School, a school has to be authorized by the International Baccalaureate Organization to offer one or more IB programs. The IB says its authorization process is required for schools to offer IB programs, and the IB World Schools yearbook says there are nearly 6,000 IB World Schools globally. So IB is meaningful in the sense that it is externally recognized. It is not just marketing fluff, but it is also not automatically proof that an entire district is academically superior. The real questions are: which schools offer it, how many students participate, how many complete the full program, how many earn the diploma, and whether access is broad or limited. In this Southern California comparison set, Capistrano Unified has an IB story. Capistrano says Carl Henke, San Clemente, and Capistrano Valley offer IB programs to students. That is meaningful, especially for families who value a globally oriented, structured academic program. But again, the program's existence is only the first question. The parent should then ask how many students are in the program and what the outcomes look like. Corona-Norco also has an IB story, and this one is important because many families may not expect it in the Inland Empire. Corona-Norco says its IB middle years and diploma program includes 3 schools, with more than 400 students in the middle years program and 150 students in the diploma program. The IB organization also lists Centennial High School in Corona as an authorized IB World School, authorized since 1996. That matters. It means Corona-Norco is not only an affordability alternative with decent, not economically disadvantaged test results, it also has an externally recognized advanced academic pathway. That does not make it equivalent to every coastal district, but it gives families something specific to investigate. AP is different. Advanced placement is much more common. The California Department of Education describes AP as a program that allows students to pursue college-level work while still in high school and potentially receive college credit or advanced standing. Because AP is common, the mere existence of AP classes is not enough to make a district special. What matters is how many AP courses are offered, who gets access, how many students take the exams, and how many earn passing scores. A P capstone is a more specific signal. The College Board describes AP capstone as a diploma program built around 2 year-long courses, AP Seminar and AP Research, focused on research, evidence-based argument, collaboration, writing, and presenting. That is more distinctive than simply saying a school offers AP classes. But again, the program name is not the whole story. A parent should ask whether students are actually completing it, how many students participate, and whether the program is available broadly or only to a small academic group. Dual enrollment is another program category that sounds impressive but needs context. Irvine Unified, for example, has a structured dual enrollment relationship with Irvine Valley College. LAUSD describes college and career access pathways, summer college, general dual enrollment, and an early college option where a selected cohort can complete 2 years' worth of college coursework while in high school. That is a meaningful program layer, especially because college credit can reduce cost and give students a head start. But dual enrollment is becoming more common, so the value depends on the structure, access, and course quality. Tustin has a different kind of standout program, Legacy Magnet Academy. Tustin describes Legacy as a grades 6 through 12 magnet school focused on technology, innovation, design, and entrepreneurship, or TIDE. The school says it uses project-based learning, entrepreneurship, and design thinking, and that core content is taught through that TIDE lens. That is meaningful if your child is the kind of student who would benefit from a project-based, design-oriented, innovation-focused school, but it is not the same thing as saying every Tustin school has that model. For parents, the right question is whether the child can attend that program, whether it is a fit, and how its outcomes compare to the district's comprehensive schools. Garden Grove's program story is more about breadth than a rare branded program. Garden Grove Unified has a broad CTE system. Its CTE pathways include automotive technology, business and finance, culinary and hospitality, digital media arts, education and teaching, engineering and product design, health science, computer science, robotics and cybersecurity, public safety, and other areas across school sites. CTE itself is not rare in California. The state has formal career technical education pathways and coding systems. So a district should not get special credit merely for saying we have CTE. But Garden Grove is interesting because its academic results for not economically disadvantaged students are already strong, and the district also appears to have a serious career pathway infrastructure. That combination is more meaningful than a program label by itself. Glendale's program story is different again. Glendale Unified has one of the more interesting language program profiles in this comparison set. The district says it offers dual language immersion in 7 languages beginning in TK or kindergarten: Armenian, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, and Spanish. It also describes different models, including 90-10 models for Latin-based alphabet languages and 50-50 models for languages such as Armenian, Japanese, and Korean. That is not ordinary. A 7-language immersion portfolio is a real program distinction, especially in a community like Glendale, where language and culture are not side issues. Glendale also has Clark Magnet High School, which the district describes as a specialized magnet school emphasizing science, mathematics, and technology, with advanced pathways in engineering, environmental science, cinema, animation, and photography. The district also describes Hoover High's Early College Academy, with Glendale Community College, as a way for students to earn a high school diploma and complete up to 2 years of college in the same time frame. That makes Glendale a program-rich district, even if its overall CAASPP numbers are not in the La Cañada or San Marino range. For a family with a multilingual child or a child interested in STEM, media, or early college, Glendale may deserve more attention than its district average would suggest. Long Beach may have the most distinctive program story among the larger mixed districts. Long Beach has California Academy of Mathematics and Science, or CAMS, which is part of Long Beach Unified. CAMS describes itself as a 4-year high school located on the campus of Cal State Dominguez Hills, focused on increasing the pool of college graduates in mathematics and science. It was also listed among California's 2024 National Blue Ribbon Schools. Long Beach also has Sato Academy of Mathematics and Science, another STEM-focused high school, and the Long Beach College Promise, a partnership involving LBUSD, Long Beach City College, Cal State Long Beach, and the City of Long Beach. The Long Beach College Promise says eligible LBUSD graduates can receive 2 years of free tuition at Long Beach City College, and CSULB describes the promise as a shared commitment among the partners to support students from elementary school through college and career. Long Beach also has a pathways model. Long Beach Unified's own course materials describe many high school pathways as industry-themed linked learning pathways combining rigorous academics, technical education, and real-world experiences. This matters because Long Beach's district-wide scores do not tell the whole story. The district is too large and too varied, but when a district has specialized STEM schools, a college promise program, and a pathway structure, parents should be looking at the specific path their child would enter, not just the district average. LAUSD is the biggest example of this. LAUSD's district-wide average is not high, but LAUSD has a huge choice infrastructure. Its choices system includes magnets, schools for advanced studies, multilingual and dual language programs, international newcomer academies, permits with transportation, and other application-based options. LAUSD describes magnet programs as voluntary integration programs with theme-based instruction, and it says schools for advanced studies receive the SAS designation for exemplary, gifted, and talented education implementation. That is very important. For a family considering LAUSD, the question is almost never what is the district average. The question is which school or program can my child actually attend. A student in a strong magnet or gifted program may have a very different experience from a student in a struggling neighborhood school. That is why LAUSD requires school-level and program-level analysis. Chino Valley's program story is more conventional but still relevant. The district lists a wide range of CTE electives, including aerospace engineering, agricultural science, computer science, engineering, forensic science, health careers, hospitality, digital media, construction trades, and more. That is not as distinctive as IB or a selective STEM magnet because CTE is common across California, but paired with Chino Valley's not economically disadvantaged CAASPP results, it gives parents a reason to look more closely. The district may not have the coastal prestige brand, but the achievement data and program breadth make it more serious than a reputation-only view might suggest. So, when parents hear about programs, here's the simple way to interpret them. IB is meaningful because it requires external authorization, but it is only meaningful for your child if your child can access it and if students are actually completing it successfully. AP is common, so the question is not whether AP exists. The question is how broad the AP menu is, who takes the courses, and how students score. AP Capstone is more distinctive than ordinary AP because it is a structured research and presentation program. Dual enrollment and early college can be valuable, especially where they are free and structured, but the details matter. CTE is common in California, so the label alone is not special. It becomes more interesting when the pathways are coherent, connected to industry or college credit, and tied to actual student completion. Magnets, STEM academies, and language immersion programs can be very meaningful, but parents need to understand access. Is there an application, a lottery, an eligibility rule, a neighborhood boundary, a GPA requirement, transportation, a limited number of seats? That brings us to what this means for parents. If a family is looking at Irvine because of the school reputation, the data supports Irvine as a strong district. But the family should not stop there. Garden Grove, Tustin, Capistrano, and Los Alamitos all deserve comparison, especially if the family's child is not economically disadvantaged. Garden Grove is the most surprising because its overall average is much lower than Irvine's, but its not economically disadvantaged English result is almost identical to Irvine's, and its math result is meaningfully closer than the overall average suggests. If a family is looking at Los Angeles County and feels priced out of La Cañada, San Marino, or Palos Verdes, the answer is not that Glendale, Long Beach, or LAUSD are the same. They are not. The benchmark districts are stronger overall, but Glendale, Long Beach, and LAUSD all show why large or mixed districts should be analyzed below the surface. In those places, the relevant question is not the district average. It is the specific school, program, pathway, and subgroup. If a family is moving inland for affordability, Chino Valley and Corona-Norco should be taken seriously. Their not economically disadvantaged results are not at the level of the very top coastal or foothill districts, but they are strong enough to make the trade-off worth studying. Chino Valley's subgroup results are especially strong for the Inland Empire, and Corona-Norco adds an IB pathway that many families may not know exists. If a child is advanced in STEM, the program layer matters a lot. Long Beach has CAMS and SATO, Glendale has Clark Magnet, Tustin has Legacy Magnet Academy, Corona-Norco has IB, including Centennial High School, Chino Valley has engineering and technical pathways, Irvine has broad high performance and dual enrollment. The right comparison is not just district to district, it is program to program. If a child is an English learner or recently exited English learner status, the not economically disadvantaged comparison is not enough. That family should look specifically at English learner progress, reclassification, long-term English learner rates, language programs, and outcomes for reclassified students. The same is true for students with disabilities. The relevant data depends on the child. The main point is not that the famous districts are overrated. That would be too simple, and the data does not support it. La Cañada, San Marino, Palos Verdes, Irvine, and Los Alamitos are strong districts. The point is that reputation is incomplete. A district average can hide strong performance among certain student groups. A lower profile district can have academic results that are much more competitive than families expect. A large district can contain specialized programs that completely change the picture for a particular student, and a program name can sound impressive without telling you whether the program is accessible or successful. So the practical rule for parents is this: do not buy the reputation without checking the data underneath it. If you are comparing Irvine and Garden Grove, do not just compare the district averages, compare the subgroup data and the specific schools. If you are comparing La Cañada or San Marino with Glendale, do not pretend the averages are the same. They are not. But also do not ignore Glendale's language immersion, magnet, and early college options. If you are comparing Orange County with the Inland Empire, do not assume the move inland automatically means giving up academic strength. Chino Valley and Corona-Norco both have data that deserves attention. If you are looking at LAUSD or Long Beach, do not make a decision from the district-wide number. The school and pathway matter too much. That is the better way to read Southern California school data. Start with the public reputation, but do not stop there. Use the benchmark districts to understand what elite performance looks like. Then look at the subgroup data, the specific programs, and the actual access rules, because families are not choosing an average. They are choosing a real school experience for a real child. And in Southern California, the data shows that the real picture is much more interesting than the reputation map.